Good evening. It is Monday, December 8th.
Does that mean?
I don't know.
I'll do it again. Oh, where did the majority talking about? I didn't, but I shut that off there. And now I shut this off, but I can still hear it at home.
Yeah.
So I have to.
And this is a meeting of the Southborough Planning Board.
Hold on.
Sounds like it's coming from Mimi.
Yeah.
From you?
It's her. No, I'm off. So I'm on, I'm off. Now try.
The first item on the agenda.
Ooh.
That's good.
Thank you, Marnie. The first item on the agenda is a presentation of battery energy storage systems by Matt Braccio. And Matt is a master electrician. He is a director of safety and project management for several large solar and battery energy storage system installations. And thank you very much for being here, Matt.
You're welcome. So I guess you kind of started out basically with I know that a lot of people are really worried about battery storage and all that stuff, but it's really a big thing. I've been doing it for more than 10 years and I've seen quite a few different systems. Can you guys hear me okay? And you hear a lot of different things about it.
Oh,
There's a
that's
lot of
better.
people that are, say, afraid of it or something, but it's really nothing to be afraid of. That there's a lot of safeties built in with it. All of the systems that I see currently being built are built by Underwriters Laboratory Standards, as well as the NFPA, which is the National Fire Prevention Association, which has really strict standards for it. There's in all of the battery storage units that I've worked in or I've seen, they have sensors that are constantly monitoring the system, monitoring the batteries. Really, the biggest danger of the unit is thermal runaway in a battery. And to be honest with you, I've never seen it. And I've done, as I said, many, many sites. With all the safety systems that are built in, it's really a very, very safe setup. It's something that's designed, engineered. There's a lot that goes into it. They really want the best product out there and they want the safest product out there. Really, the way it works is it used to be when we were all kids, all of us old timers, nighttime was when the lowest amount of energy was used, but they're finding that that's when it's most needed. And unfortunately, with the renewables, which is mainly where I see these units installed, we can make the power during the day, but at night we're not able to offtake it. Well, with a system like this, you're able to offtake the power at the peak hours, which are at night and when it's needed the most. And that's why you're really seeing them really start to be installed all over the place. They're going in. Oh my God, Massachusetts, I've done at least 15 of them. And they're really all over the country. We're seeing them. But Massachusetts is really starting to get caught up with it because we're so ahead of everywhere else with solar and starting to get caught up with the batteries and really starting to integrate them into most of the existing solar sites that you see out there. I've really not looked at any of the equipment being used on this particular job. I'm really just talking about what I've worked with. And as I said, when it falls under the UL 9540 and 9540A, that's where all the safety comes in from UL and then NFPA 855. The systems have built-in fire alarm systems, built-in suppression systems. Generally, when they're suppressed with a some sort of a coolant to cool down the thermal runaway. But long before it becomes an issue, all of the equipment has shut down, has sent a signal through to the monitoring center that's constantly watching these systems 24 hours a day and kind of lets everybody know that there's a problem and to get someone out there to deal with it before it becomes a major issue. There's Anybody have any kind of questions or anything? I know I just kind of did it really quickly, but any questions or anything like that?
We shall see. Ms. Houlihan.
Matt, nice to see you. Thanks for coming tonight and sharing your thoughts. I don't know that much about these developments. So I think what I was really just trying to understand is kind of, obviously your experience, they're safe, everything's kind of built in. Any like watch outs or what you've seen that needs to have kind of proactive thinking before,
Really-
consideration?
Great question, Monty. And the one big thing that I would really make sure that you'll have, and I'm sure that you'll have done by the engineers or the company that's doing, is to make sure that there's an emergency response plan shared with them, shared with the fire department, shared with everybody. And in the emergency response plan, they'd really, what I do when I do a site is I meet with the fire departments. I go over all the worst case scenarios and what to do in a worst case scenario. And the emergency response plan will have all of the information on how to deal with the fire. I believe this one is a lithium ion. There's two types. There's lithium ion and lithium ion phosphate. I'm pretty sure this one would be a phosphate, where it's a newer one, and the phosphate batteries are a lot more hardy, less likely to have issues, less thermal runaway issues. As I said, I've heard of thermal runaway, but I've never seen it, and I've never even seen pictures of it. And it's really what happens is the battery gets to the point where it's burning so bad that there's just nothing that can be done. And think about this. There are so many homes in our town that have EVs in the garage, in the homes, and it's sitting in your garage. So think about it. If it was such a dangerous situation, you'd hear about fires all the time. And do you? Not really. Maybe hear about one every now and then, but it's not something you see in the news all the time. Not something that I've heard of. So, and that's a totally different battery. That type of battery is a lot more dangerous. A lot more. There's way less safety involved. There's nothing monitoring, telling you if there's an issue. So, by the time you have an issue with something like that, you've got real problems on your hand. Whereas with all of the battery energy storage systems that I see out there that run by the NFPA and the UL standards, all the safety stuff that's built in alleviates the problems long before it becomes a thermal runaway or something that would be, say, catastrophic. You hear about the fires that you can't put out, and it certainly could happen. But as long as everything's working as it should and is engineered properly, like I said, it's not, it's a proven system. It's not something that was just brought on the market, this week or anything like that.
Excellent. Thanks. My last question then is really around, and I can't believe I'm forgetting this woman's name, but she came forward to this board and select board around the 5G and dangers of 5G and kind of just more of the impact to that, to just our own development and neuro and all that stuff. And I mean, I don't think there's a lot of evidence that's been generated around there, but have you seen anything or heard anything that's worrisome, that communities have raised in those areas that you've placed these storage units, Matt?
Never. I've never heard of it, and I work around the stuff all the time, and I've not heard of anything such as that. Really, what I get is everybody in this exact situation. They've never heard of it. They've never, they were just afraid of it, which I certainly understand. But as I said, it's this equipment is engineered and designed to work, and especially in Massachusetts, we have extreme to extreme. In the summer, it gets really hot. In the winter, it gets really cold. Generally speaking, the way that these units work, there's an HVAC system on it. The HVAC system just keeps the batteries at a proper temperature, not too hot, not too cold. The worst thing that could happen in the cold is it's just going to make the battery die, not catch on fire, not anything. The heat is a little more of a situation, more of a worse situation where it can get into the thermal runaway. But again, I've not seen one in all the systems that I've done, and we have hundreds of them all over the country and Canada. And I've heard of nothing. And I hear about more problems with like little solar arrays on roofs on residential applications than I do on the applications that I tend to work on. Just like you see in my background picture, which is a 100 megawatt, 400-acre site in Pennsylvania.
Amazing. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Mr. Maria.
Hi, Matt. Thank you for coming. It sounds safer than I had thought, so I'm actually kind of happy to hear this. I was just wondering if you know about any of the sort of applicable laws and regulations in Massachusetts and how towns specifically in Massachusetts are dealing with, the disposal and, just anything you can inform us about. I mean, I'm still a little bit struck about how these systems fall under the Dover Amendment, and just if you happen to know anything about, what towns go through that are trying to do regulation on these things.
I do know that towns require like a whole decommissioning plan. Unfortunately, I don't really get involved in that. I'm more involved on the building end and the, safety end and the end of, doing the trainings with the fire departments. So unfortunately, I can't help you on that end, to be honest with you. I do know that, I know of, as I said, my gosh, I know of 5 that are going in Massachusetts in the next year or so. But I know of, as I said, many that were installed over the past few years that I talk to these fire departments all the time. I do ongoing trainings with them, and none of the systems have had any issues that I've heard of, and I would hear about it quickly. Trust me. My phone would ring at 2 a.m. if there was an issue.
Thank you. And by decommissioning, are you talking about like the waste disposal?
Correct. Generally speaking, with everything that we do solar wise, it's based on a 30-year lease. So the land is leased for like 30 years. And after the 30 years, they either will renew the lease and continue with the solar, or they'll actually take it out and give the people the raw land like they had it. That's how it works on my end. Or they'll actually give it. Say Southborough did a deal with like a lot of companies. What they would do is, say we put solar in our schools, they would do a deal where for the first 10 years, we're getting our electricity for a reduced fee. And then after a set amount of years, approximately 10 years, we would then own it and we would get all the benefits of it. But they would do a decommissioning bond for the end of they base solar on a 30-year life. At the end of 30 years, they will either put in new solar panels, replace it, and do something new, or again, they'll just give you back the raw land or wherever it was, raw land, raw rooftop, whatever it is. They'll remove it, decommission it, properly dispose of it, and be done with it. The batteries are the same way. The batteries have approximately a 30-year life, and they would renew them and put in new batteries, change them out, and recycle them.
Very interesting. Thank you. Thanks for talking to us tonight. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Ms. Braccio.
Good evening, Mr. Braccio. Lovely to see you, as
Good to see
always.
you through that.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to share some information that I had pulled for the board. I had gone back and looked at, so the AG has denied zoning for a variety of towns. Shutesbury, Wendell, Mansfield, Sherburne, Shrewsbury, Hubbardston, and Pelham have all put together a bylaw that the AG has pushed back for a variety of reasons. I have some sheets here, and if everybody wants them, it kind of explains it all, and I'd be happy to share it with Colleen and Karina. They could send it out. It talks about why they were rejected. Most of them were rejected for the same thing. It's too restrictive. The state has a plan, and I don't know the exact number, to have X amount of storage in the state. So I also pulled up the model zoning bylaw. And again, I can include that, and that can be sent out, as well as some of the other towns that have bylaws that passed muster with the AG. So I think as we think about going forward and creating a bylaw, because I think it's something we really need to do to put any type of guidance, regulations, if you will, that we can. So I don't have any specific questions or comments. short of what Matt talked about. I will just add that there are, as he said, a lot of safety put in place for these various, and again, as I was reading about this, these things came up. Just like anything else, I mean, anything can happen. Like today, for instance, I had to go to Hopkinton for something, and it just happened to be, well, Tennessee Energy, their natural gas had a leak today. So it's not something you plan on happening, and but there's always a chance that something could happen. But the mitigators that they put in place through all the different, through the UL, through, what is it, NPA, Matt, whatever it is, the fire protections. and
NFPA,
NFPA.
National
Okay, so
Association of Fire Protection.
there's so many protections put on these and monitoring. And again, there's always room for something to happen. There's no way to foresee, but, at least we can look at what other towns are doing and hopefully do something to do our own mitigation on that. So again, Mr. Braccio, thank you. It was a pleasure seeing you, and I will turn the mic over.
Mr. Belknap.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation and the information. Certainly appreciate it. I had a couple of questions, some of which I think you already addressed, about the estimated life cycle of batteries in the land 30 years and what happens at the end, the end of life in your decommissioning, which you said you know that the process is there, but don't exactly know how it runs. So that's fine. So the last question I had is, in your experience, what do municipal fire departments have to change on their end to address like abatement for fires and things like that that's different than what they're already doing today?
Basically, what they really don't have to change much. There's no specialized equipment. What has to happen is they have to be trained. And as I said, we train twice a year. I'll go out twice a year and I'll do a training with sometimes with certain departments. I'll have to meet with 5 different shifts just to make sure everybody understands what's going on. One thing that I want to stress is that these systems are watched 24/7. And really just to make sure that in the event that there is something that has an issue, it will be dealt with before it becomes a major problem. But it's not like they need any specialized equipment. As I said, every system out there will have a certain type of a suppression system. One of the systems that or the agents that I see used all the time, and you can write this down, it's called NOVAC, NOVAC 1230. And what that does is it just, in the event that there's 2 smoke detectors go off inside the unit, it discharges the agent and it just puts everything out just like that. Or what could as well happen is there's always a external pull station, just like you see in like any building, to set off a fire alarm, and that as well would discharge the agent. It would automatically shut the system off, discharge the agent, and quell the problem before it turned into a thermal runaway. Again, there's no like super special training or anything like that. What I do just like to stress is just to make sure that before anybody looks at the unit, someone who's qualified to work on the unit tells them it's safe to do so. And when I do a fire training, I always just stress to the fire department just to keep the fire from going further from the unit, not to do anything to the unit itself until a qualified person has come and told you it's safe to enter the unit. So it's just kind of a specialized training, so to say, but there's no specialized equipment or anything like that. Nothing more than you'd see in a normal fire situation where they'd have on their breathing apparatus and all that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Matt. I really appreciate this. This is something I have zero knowledge of. So when this came up, it was a little scary, and you've alleviated some of that fear, and I appreciate that.
You're gonna see them in a lot of houses. Like anybody that has solar on their home, like I think you do, Mimi. What's going to happen in the next few years is they're going to integrate battery systems into your home so that you can, if you're making more power than you could offtake to the utility during the day, that you could use that during the night. So that's coming, and it's coming quick. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's stuff out there that you could, get it at like the box stores now, where you can add it to the solar. So that there's a lot coming out, and in the next few years, it's really going to become a big thing. Which just because the prices are just getting insane. look at, look at what everybody pays for electricity. And it's just that one thing that when you tell someone that you can save money over the long term, everybody's all about it. I know it's a great thing. I feel happy doing it because it's just, solar's not the end all. As you can see in my picture, there's a nuke plant in the background too. So there's, a little of everything will help you. You get your gas, you get your electric, you got your nuclear power. It's going to happen forever, but we need the electricity. So it's a great source of making the electricity and generating.
So being a total novice, thermal runaway, is that a fire that's not controlled by the suppression system?
Correct. It's thermal runaway is it's just a fancy way to say that the unit is catching on fire. It's gotten to a temperature that's too high for it to withstand. So once it sees that high heat, it just discharges the agent and calms the fire right down, puts it right out, takes all the oxygen away. More than anything, it cools it down like a CO2. And just by cooling it down, it displaces the fire and kind of makes it a safe situation.
And so you had referred to some UL codes that systems have to comply with. Is that all systems, even little ones?
All systems have to go by the equipment standard of UL 9540. 95 was A in 1973.
Okay. Because the reason I asked, the state is coming out with regulations on this. They aren't, they're draft at the moment, but anything under an acre is exempt. And I'm probably in Southborough will have more of the smaller units spread around than any like large systems that are over an acre, I would think.
Right. I think that's a lot because usually every container I've ever seen is a container, a single, and I've seen containers that were 10 megawatts of solar, 10 megawatts of power, which is a decent amount of power, and it's only a 40-foot container.
Yeah.
So it's 8 by 40. It's nothing crazy, and in 8 feet by 40 feet, it's got, as I said, a suppression system. It's got a fire alarm in it. It's got all the equipment. It's got the HVAC to keep it cool, keep it warm, not frozen, just keep it at that sweet spot temperature. So it's not like they're, unbelievably huge. It's about as big as a shipping container. It's exactly what they are, shipping containers.
Yeah. And you had mentioned that we should make sure that there's any systems that come to Southborough have an emergency response plan. Anything else that we should make sure?
Make sure that they will do, and every company that I know of does it. I'm sure it's being done by a reputable company. So they do training for the fire department periodically as needed. It's like, as I said, we do it twice a year because new team members, new fire department team members come on, new firefighters, and just to make sure everybody's comfortable with it and understands how to work with it.
Oh, that's a good idea. Awesome. That's great. Oh, there's a hand raised in the audience. Oh, from Jim Cleary.
Cleary.
Hi, Jim. Go ahead.
To say to actually bring up what Matt is bringing to you, it's very good, by the way. Thanks, Matt. And then, first of all, a lot of it's already established in the building code 855 from the NFPA, which governs on how these things have to be operated and inspected. And we have a long-standing policy here in the town of Southborough, and the present building commissioner is enforcing it. We do have energy storage, smaller systems here in Southborough. And of course, this will probably carry on to the larger ones if they do come here. To which you'll see, which is very uncommon, the building inspector, building commissioner, the fire prevention officer, and the wire inspector, all on the scene at the same time. And we have a program set up for us. Building and fire are looking at the structural fire processes of this system. And once they approve it, then the wire inspector, that would be me, would step up, or my assistants, and go through the actual wiring methods involved. Once this is all documented and approved and signed off by all the parties, including what we need to know for the fire service, the emergency shutdown, structural and problems of fire prevention within the buildings, of course, and this would be more than the outside, what you're talking about. is all approved and including, future plans for the end of 30 years, what will happen with anything that you take out of a building or out of a process, it requires, a building permit for removal. And that would be all adopted by the building code, how these things would happen. But one of the things that I think that we're seeing in Southborough and across the state with the stretch energy code, we're seeing cities and towns pushing for more to get off fossil fuels and more onto the electrical world. My process for 35 years at National Grid, 28 I was in their control center, which switched all the grids. I still have access to go see New England's grids and go onto the ISO New England webpage, and I brought it up. And what's pushing a lot of this is the utilities, electric utilities know, as we see people shutting off their oil burners, going to heat pumps and those sort of things to heat their homes, electric cars. Where's the electricity coming from? Now, right now in New England, the load right now in New England is 18,920 megawatts. That's how the system. To put it in general watts, add 6 more zeros on that 18,920. That is the load we're running right at this moment. And of the load, very quickly, I'll tell you, natural gas represents 40% of the generating capacity of that. 18% of it is nuclear still coming in from other areas into New England. 18% oil, 9% is hydro, 8% renewable energies, that'd be solar and wind and so on and so forth. 1%, under 1% others. Coal is basically non-existing here now. And there's something else for net other imports that they could bring in. But when you look at the renewables, right now on our system grid, 59% is wind, 20% is refuge that's coming from burning, I think, trash. Then there's 9% from wood boilers that create turbines that run generators that's the load, and 2% under landfill gas, and 1%, just under 1% is solar. So the strong push in Massachusetts and throughout New England is to increase that solar, but also to make solar work, because we have two peaks. During the summer, we have the midday peak when the highest temperatures, but in the winter, we get into a late in the day peak because of the cold temperatures drawing, people coming in, turning on their heat up and turning their cooking and so on and so forth. So having this energy storage now increases when the sun comes down, the capabilities of this solar farm to continue producing power, which is probably I would say for the distant future is going to be an increasing demand to do this throughout New England. So that's kind of why you see it being even looked at in places like Southborough. But the best place to find out how Southborough will respond, you can talk to your public safety people, your fire, your building commissioner, was what his plans are. Mine's very basic, governed under the National Electrical Code or the Massachusetts Electrical Code. Hopefully that helps you with some of this.
Yeah, it sure does. Thank you very much, Jim. So you're way further ahead on this than obviously we are. So that's very comforting. And there's someone else, David, if you could identify yourself and your address.
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yep, this is David Williams. I'm on the Southborough Zoning Board of Appeals, so we'll be hearing about this on Wednesday. My only question, Matt, are you familiar with this particular system, and do you know of a similar one that you've installed locally or within the area?
I've not seen the prints, so I can't say. I've not seen, what type of system it is. So I can't actually answer that question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Once I do, I could certainly look, and I could talk to some of the people I work with in the area. I know that I've had Mr. Cleary come out to a few sites that I built, and he's seen them and was rather impressed. So I could certainly put something together once I kind of see what we have.
Okay. Yeah, and the comments from Mr. Cleary are helpful to me as well. We did get something from the fire chief about, I think a little bit more about the history. So I know that, like, if you have a thermal runaway and it does get out of control, that they the advice is they let it burn out, right? So obviously that would probably be the biggest concern. I think what I would like to understand is, is that a phenomenon that's pretty much in the rearview mirror? Like whatever caused the thermal runaways in the past, have they put, safety measures in place so,
They
it's
really
not going to
have.
happen any longer?
Really have, David. I know that I did hear of sites, and this is going back when it was in its infancy, when batteries were really just starting to happen, where there was a catastrophic fire in I believe it was somewhere in Arizona, and that changed the whole industry. That really kind of made everybody kind of step back and realize that they had to integrate all the safety, the gas sensors that they put in there, the fire suppression systems, all that stuff. And since that, and that was, I think that was 8 or 10 years ago, as I remember, I've not heard of one thermal runaway since. So, I did a little research today, just kind of searching around, and I couldn't find anything. So I really think that they have it pretty well figured out, to be honest with you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's
You're
all.
welcome.
Thank you, David. Oh, Karina has a question.
Hi, Matt. Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
My question is there concern with an EV charging station right outside the BESS facility? Is it right
No.
adjacent to it?
No, there's no.
As far as fire and heat, and if the electric vehicle combusts, the fire suppression is inside in the containment, but if there's a heat source outside the containment, well, I guess it would trigger the inside suppression, but is there concern with that, with EV stations right next to the batteries?
I'm sure it's going to be designed into the system where it's so close to the unit, where if there was an event going on, what would happen is it would start to overcharge the vehicle from the charging station. So I'm almost positive it would shut the system down, and shutting the system down would once the system power E stops pressed or the fire alarm's triggered, everything except for the suppression and everything that discharges the electricity is turned off. So all that works at that point is just the safety equipment. So
So
No.
the vehicle itself would still burn, but the facility itself is protected.
correct. It's contained. It's in a container. It's basically inside a unit. So you could have a like a forest fire going outside of it, and it wouldn't affect it inside the unit. They're all rated with thermal ratings of so many hours and all that stuff.
Okay, I only mentioned because in the current application, it looks like there's an EV station where the car parks right next to the containment. So that just stood out to me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Any other questions? Matt, thank you so very much. This was very helpful. And thank you, Jim, for your information too. This was very, very helpful.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a discussion item 55 plus housing bylaw update discussion with the Affordable Housing Trust. I think,
And Colleen, we have several,
yeah, Ellen, Doug,
Doug Mans, yep. Ellen Myra.
is Paul Desmond on there?
Let's see, I can tell you. I got the list.
Am I missing anything?
I think that's it. Doug, do you see anybody in the attendees that we should pull over?
Ellen, do I have everybody?
I think you have everyone. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So is this you, Marnie, kicking us off?
Well, I think yes. So hi everyone, thanks for joining us. Ellen, I know you shared a very good report back from your meeting from the 18th of November, and I honestly have not had a chance to advance any of the writing or actually get back to you. So maybe we use this time where you can kind of go through what those suggestions are. And the one thing that I would ask is Ms. Demuria in the last one wanted us to really think about exclusionary zoning and if this 55 plus falls into that. And I do think it's just something, a topic of conversation that we should make sure that we're cognizant of. And the report that Ms. Demuria shared with our planning board, we'd be happy to share. But if any of that thinking has come into your consideration as you've discussed this as a team.
Sure. Thank you, Marnie. So I think to that point, and I appreciate Mr. Maria sharing that report around. It is a really valuable and important read. For anyone who hasn't seen it, Exclusionary by Design, I think where we're coming from this is that there has definitely been a change in the last few years in how the state is exercising its power to prohibit some of the ways that 55 plus housing has been used as an exclusionary entity. So I think there have certainly been cases where cities or towns focus exclusively on affordable housing for 55 plus, with the goal, explicit or implicit, to prevent lower income families from being able to move in. And so the state has really taken a position and stepped up its enforcement over the last few years to make sure that if a town or a city has a 55 plus bylaw, there aren't things like bedroom restrictions that can be kind of an end around to prohibit larger families from moving in. There can't be, it's not, age restricted housing. It's designed for 55 plus, but you can't have in your bylaw that, people under 18 aren't allowed to live there. So I think it's a really important consideration for us to keep in mind. I think our conversations have tried to think about how we can improve this bylaw. And, I know there's been discussion in the past around planning board of, let's overhaul the whole thing. And so I see, the whole zoning code. So I think there's, value to looking at everything holistically and value to kind of chipping away piece by piece. So I think that's kind of where our focus has been, is that, this is one piece of the code that isn't working, that we're really coming up on this cap. And so I think we're happy to engage in additional discussions if there are other areas of the code that could be tweaked or rewritten or improved to get more affordability, to make sure that we are being as inclusionary as possible. But I think that's a really long answer to kind of how we've been thinking about this. But Doug or Paul, feel free to add to that, or anything else.
Alan, I think you covered it very well. Again, I think this is just one of the tools in the toolkit, right? There definitely is demand for 55 plus housing. We're at the cap. Again, it's just one part of the zoning code, so it's not precluding or it's not over focused. I do think 55 plus is also a protected category under fair housing, like you can do it. So from our perspective, and again, I think there's an aging demographic in all of Massachusetts communities, right? So what are their options? And so I think that's what we've been really focused on. So it seems like a good use to be allowing more of in the town, but not precluding other uses in other areas either. So.
Great. Thanks for your thoughts on that. I appreciate it. And then you had kind of spoken about thinking about the 12.5% affordable units for households earnings 80% of AMI. So similar to downtown district. You also had discussed in your meeting the payment in lieu structures. And Doug, I feel like you and Ellen had brought this forward, and I really liked the concept of it. I think the challenge for me is how do we actually enforce it or get anything to actually transact? So while I love the idea, I'm not really sure how we actually do that in our code and be able to actually assign somebody that accountability in this town. So that I think is an open question, but I didn't know if that was a deal breaker to have that payment in lieu in there.
I think each of the members can speak for themselves. I think it was, well, one, first, it was partly for residual when you start getting into fractions, right? That's one, right? I think the other thing too was, there may be an opportunity where, a contribution may result in more units than them simply doing units on the parcel themselves. So it was just trying to keep flexibility for the planning board. I have seen this done in other towns where it, becomes a mitigation requirement, right? And so it's part of the approval by the planning board. And so, their approval is not valid. They don't, follow through on it type of thing. The Affordable Housing Trust does have a fund that can accept funds, right? So that is good news there. But I wouldn't say it's an absolute thing from my perspective, but I do think, and again, I think the way we're trying to word it, it was really more of a tool for the planning board, right? So it's an option versus it wasn't one or the other. I mean, the baseline might be the preference is that the affordable units should be within the development itself, right? And that keeps it mixed income and is better. But there may be opportunities where, again, where maybe it's not the best thing, or again, there's some fractional component where rather than losing 0.4 of a unit, we actually get a contribution for that 0.4 unit type of thing. Because I hear some towns round down. Like, so if you're over 0.5, you get an extra unit, right? But if you're under 0.5, you get one less, you don't get that unit. And so, again, I think it was just part of the math problem too as well. But those are at least were my initial thoughts. But again, Ellen and Paul should chime in too as well.
Yeah, I agree with everything Doug said, but it also, I mean, right now, the Affordable Housing Trust has very little income stream. So anything that can potentially create income for us, I think is a good thing. And this, as Doug said, might be just one tool to do that.
Thanks. I just a sidebar is that we can barely get our developers to submit as-built, never mind comply with the conditions of the the permit. So it's just a struggle and a challenge. But I think that Ellen, you were kind enough to say you'd continue to work on this. I think some time has opened up for me, and I think if we're all receptive to me continuing to do my work on this end from the planning board representation, and if you are still willing to sit down, maybe we can advance based on your feedback. And if there's any planning board feedback on what the recommendations are from your committee, we can kind of tackle this and maybe come back after the new year with a revised draft.
Mr. Maria, any questions or comments?
Well, just wanted to thank you, everybody, for the work that's getting done. I guess I'm in the holistic camp that I think that, and maybe Doug mentioned that this is only one part of it. It's maybe one tool. And, but I do think that there's a bigger problem. I've spent some time, and I know I reached out to Mimi to talk about some of the reports that are getting written in the state, because more and more towns are creating inclusionary zoning bylaws. And I wanted to see if anybody has taken a look at that. The idea behind it, I think, is to put everything in one place, to say, this is what our town needs, to think of it in, sort of in a master plan kind of perspective. It's obviously we have housing production plan, but if you're coming into our town and you're interested to work with the town on affordable housing, these are the areas where we've identified that, you should have affordable housing. And indeed, I believe that that might have been one of the questions from the AG, but this is something that towns are doing more and more. Westboro just passed inclusionary zoning. Well, I think they might have had something in their bylaw in 2024, but at a special town meeting, I think they updated it this year. So my question, I guess, to our guests is whether or not, there's anything there. My understanding of inclusionary zoning is that it has to really be tailored to the town. We obviously have it, but it's in various different parts of our zoning code, and one part is in the over 55, but there's other parts in other sections of the code. So I was just wondering if you know about inclusionary zoning, in what other towns are doing, and to see if anything like that could be successful in Southborough, if you have an opinion on that.
Sure. So this is part of what we looked at our last meeting was pulling all of the references we could find from Southborough's current code around inclusionary housing. And as you've said, it's in a few different places. So there are different mentions and different kind of structures for how it works in the downtown district. It's in the MBTA Communities Overlay District. It's in our major residential development section. So it does show up in a few different places, and that's where we pulled the language that we thought it made sense to move forward from, that we were aligning the language we're recommending with what was in the downtown district as kind of the most recent addition. The MBTA communities language is kind of the baseline state language, which is what communities needed to adopt unless they went through an economic study, a feasibility analysis to get to a higher affordability level. So it made sense for us to kind of mirror what was in the downtown district, as that's what the planning board most recently adopted. And we looked as well, like you said, at some of our neighbors. So what Westboro did, we were definitely informed by kind of their payment in lieu structure with what we recommended. We looked at Northborough as well, and Westboro also, in putting together that bylaw, did a pretty extensive economic feasibility analysis that we shared around the trust. And so obviously not exactly the same, but I think we're able to definitely learn some lessons from what they've done. So I think, yeah, I think there could definitely be additional conversations about, instead of having these things all in different places, and there are, you know, different structures depending on where you're looking in the code and what bylaw you're operating under. I would say, just speaking for me, that I would have an appetite for thinking how we could kind of zoom out and have one inclusionary bylaw that, you know, if it makes sense, to be consistent across the town, but to have that all in one place versus how it's split up now. But I think we were kind of trying to learn what we could from what's already here to kind of tackle this immediate issue with this cap and improve this bylaw in front of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I comment on inclusionary zoning? So if we did an overall inclusionary zoning, it couldn't be more than 10% because that's the cap on the MBTA. And our other sections are 12.5, and I think more is better. And I think that's a much heavier lift. We're trying to just fix this bylaw so it works. We'd have to change several different sections of the code to put in an inclusionary. And from a practical standpoint, I've found from sitting on the planning board, when a proponent comes in and they want to build an over 55, they look at that section of the bylaw. If they want to build something in the downtown, they just look at that. They don't even look at the definitions, which we found out in a recent project, that what they were trying to put forth didn't match the definitions. They want everything in one place. So if they had to go look at the inclusionary section and look at the downtown section, it would be more difficult to implement, I've found from sitting here. Ms. Braccio.
Thank you. So thank you, Marnie. Thank you for Ellen. Ellen, I know you as well have put in a ton of time on this, and I know we've spoken about this a little bit. I'm still concerned. I still look at the over 55 bylaw and how it's been used. I worry about, the biggest concern for me is the affordability piece. And for me to be able to support something, would need a true built-in number with an affordability. Most of the over 55s in town sell for 800,000 and up. That's not affordable. I mean, if we're truly talking about doing something, a lot of seniors in town live in a home that's already below the median price of a home in town. So when they sell their home, they're still outpriced on something smaller. So I think if we're really going to do this and do this justice, you know, there is a housing crisis. We have seniors in town that live in smaller homes now, but maybe they need a little something smaller. So I would truly be looking at something affordable. I beat this drum before. I think 80% just doesn't cut it. It doesn't cut it, doesn't help and make it truly equitable housing in my mind. I think everyone should have a right to live in Southborough, irregardless of how much you make. I think it's an amazing town. So I would really be looking at a higher number potentially for affordable with a lower AMI. And I guess I'll just kind of leave that as my takeaway on this. And I know, like I said, I've had conversations about this in the past, but I just think if we're really gonna take a look at this and from the Affordable Housing Trust standpoint, I would imagine you guys would be supportive of, adding some more form of affordability as well. Thank you.
Mr. Belniak.
I don't have anything net new to add from my prior colleagues.
I have a couple of comments. I know that I watched the last Affordable Housing Trust meeting, and there was a very good conversation on this. And I know that you have to figure out what, how much affordability you can require and still be a possibility of getting a project done. And I think, Doug, you had mentioned Cambridge or something has very high affordability, and as a result, they've had 0 projects done. Am I misquoting you?
No, yeah, no. So Boston, the city of Cambridge, and Somerville have all passed 20% affordable requirements on their residential, and they've since have almost very little production to date. And what production has happened has almost been 100% affordable housing projects that are obviously heavily subsidized from the city and the state. And so at least for projects of scale, right? Some of these towns have thresholds that has to be at least 8 units or more. So it hits the financials pretty significantly. And you're also right. We did have a robust discussion around this. I mean, I think the committee definitely would love as high affordability as possible, right? And we definitely don't want to be lower than 10% because we want to stay stable with the SHI inventory. But that's where I think the 12.5%, because of the precedent that was already done by the town, we were settling in on. We also had some robust discussions about the AMI percentage, right? Obviously, 80% of AMI is a standard that's used in many towns, in the Commonwealth, right? But not to say that the town can't require something lower or also have an average, right? So you may have some units that are even lower, but some may go higher too as well, right? And so I think we're definitely open to that discussion. But again, sometimes that creates a lot of complexity too as well. Some other towns have done where, maybe it's 10% at 80%, but then there's 2.5% at a lower affordability too. So you can get pretty creative, with this. But I can definitely say as you start to go beyond 12.5% or 15%, you're actually going to start to, contradict what you're trying to do, which is, create more housing opportunities at times. And so, I mean, it is a math problem, but, this is where all towns have struggled. I think Ellen did a great job of looking at a lot of examples around us, and the towns that tend to be, closer to the 10 or 12.5% are still getting production. But, the 3 cities I referenced, again, I've worked in all 3 of those cities. There's very little housing production of substance once you get up to the 20% range. And so, I mean, it's just, but that's a bit anecdotal, but at least I want to reference that.
Thank you. The other comment was there should, I think personally, should be some density limit and not have that open. It was 3 units an acre. I'd be, open to, more like 6 units an acre or something. I don't know what the correct number was. I think 15 is too high. But I definitely think that there should be some density limit. The other thing is my question, I think that we should take a look at the definition for housing for the elderly, because that says only 2 people can live in a unit. One has to be 55 or over or disabled. We may want to, I don't know if we even need that definition there. And also under all the use regulations, multifamily housing for the elderly, it says owned by a public or nonprofit housing organization. I think we need to remove that that sentence in all of them. So those were my comments. I have these are where they are if you want that, Marnie. Any questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Freddie Gillespie. I'm speaking as a citizen, but I just wanted to comment on the payment in lieu of. You may want to take a look at the history of this town. Back in the heyday of the farm abandonment and subdivisions, we had a lot of subdivisions under the flexible subdivision bylaw that required affordable to be built, or there was a payment in lieu of. I'm aware of it because we were going through, it was also part of the open space requirements for these subdivisions. So we did a deep dive into it. And I don't want to, I can only quote, because it was a while ago, my memory, not statistics, but take a look. It is shockingly, we lost out big time. There were subdivisions that went in that we were, one of them I can think of was at least 3 units. They tossed, there was a formula that was required for the payment in lieu of, which was a percentage of how many lots there were, the cost of the land, plus the cost to build a house. And I think we got 100,000 out of that one. And the rest of them we just didn't get. So anytime you make something subjective, I'm not a fan of it, because our history is we just don't end up getting. And then you're saying the Affordable Housing Trust can accept money, but then it's still on you to build it, right? Whereas if you have a project that's required to build it, then when it's done and you get what you're supposed to get. And I would strongly recommend no subjective language and make it, and if it's, I don't see how you win. If it's over 0.5, you get an extra unit. And if it's under 0.5, you don't. Figure another way, maybe that little percentage point you get some money, but what happens is they'll always go for the under 0.5 and you lose a unit there. So figure out a way to make that work, but make the rest of it be, if you build it, you build the affordable units. It's not payment in lieu of, because it's a sad, sad story if you want to take the time and look at how many we should have gotten, and the fact that there is very few that were actually created. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy, also we have to replace shop C in the code with.
Oh, yeah, one little housing keeping, we need to replace Shopsy and replace it with the Affordable Housing Trust in the code. Any other questions or comments?
Can I ask Mimi? Just following up on your point about the density language. So that's something we talked about briefly, but I think we're definitely looking to planning board for more guidance on what that level should be. So I don't know if that's something that it makes sense for Marty and I to work on, or if we want to have more of a discussion about that tonight. But I think that was definitely an area where, we didn't have a sense of where that should land. I think somewhere between 3 and 15 sounds right, but that's about as far as we got.
Any, so off the cuff, my recommendation is 6. What does the rest of the board think?
Yeah, I agree with the density. I was thinking between 4 and 6, so I think I could lend that way. I think the 15 was just too dense.
Mr. Maria?
Well, I agree. I tend to be more down toward 4. I agree. You have to adjust that.
Ms. Braccio?
Between 4 and 6.
Same.
Okay. So there you go.
So one thing I would just relate to, again, I think as Ann put it, we were, kind of in, definitely 3's too little, 15's too much. I will say, I would suggest, moving more towards 6. These two tend to be smaller units too, as well, because they are 55 plus, right? But, again, it's great to hear the planning board feedback, on that topic. So, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. This is a good discussion, and I think Ellen and Marnie have their work cut out for them. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
The next item on the agenda is Southville Road MBTA Communities Development. Do you want to kick us off here, Karina?
Yes.
just a couple weeks ago, Jim Benincasa,
Yes.
hi,
Hey.
he approached the planning department, to inquire about, the MBTA communities sub-district number 1A, which is down on Southville Road. Number 30 Southville Road, and then the lot that's to the east towards Ashland. It was the two parcels that were just beyond the half-a-mile radius. The 30 Southville Road has a building on it. I believe it's a warehouse. The other one is undeveloped land. The undeveloped land is about 4 acres.
4 acres, correct.
Yeah, so it's my understanding that Jim is working on obtaining the 4-acre lot.
Correct.
And I believe that is Assessor Map 5, Lot 8. And we suggested that he provide a conceptual sketch of some sort so he could let the planning board know what his intentions are and maybe get some preliminary feedback. Jim also came into the office again to talk about this a couple times, and we went through the MCOD code section of the town code to see what the dimensional requirements, what might impact him. So we had good dialogue, which was very helpful on both sides, because this would be the first project under the MBTA Communities Overlay District. So that would be good.
This is my first project, permitting one as well, so
As permitting one,
we're
that's-
learning together.
Yeah,
It's a good thing.
that was very
It
helpful.
was a good dialogue. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So here we are, and Jim's here to, present to the planning board his ideas.
Yes. Thank you, Karina.
We can't hear you, Mimi.
Thank you for having us. So again, James Benincasa, SJB Investments. With me, I have Cohen Adcock and Stephen Benincasa behind me. So we are an owner operator of these. We permit them, we build them. So I'm more in the permitting end of it. Cohen's more in the development, building end of the project. Steve oversees all of us. So it's a family thing. It's pretty nice. We have our own, all of our systems, and we all work together. So it's a great system that Stephen has built. So if we could, I'd like to bring up a presentation and actually hand it over to my cousin Cohen and have him run through. Yes,
Yeah.
just a little bit about us.
Sure.
Karina, do you have that up?
Colleen does.
Oh, Colleen does.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm here.
So if we can go back to the beginning, and I'll walk.
Can you go back to the first one, Colleen? There you go.
So this is our development. Okay, yeah. Sure. We're a family-owned real estate development company. We are in residential, multi-residential, for sale and for rent. So the development team is myself, Stephen, Jimmy, my wife Julie, Jennifer Michelik, she's our property manager, and Azabeth Land Designs, the civil engineer who will be designing the site.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. So the architectural team, these are the architects we use on the multifamily side. So this would be the architect would be doing the designing of the buildings at Southville Road. They're a firm who's been in business for over 80 years. They've done over 26,000 units, and multifamily is their specialty. And we work with them. We like working with them. And they're very thoughtful in design, and it's a good fit. So these are just a little bit of the developer qualifications. These are just projects that we've completed over the last 50 years as a company. Okay. So it's just basically residential projects, multi-residential projects for sale and for rent, over 2,000 units ranging from Central Mass out to Wellesley over the last 50 years. No, that's us. Yeah, that's our team. So here's just a little overview of the Southville community. We're looking at a 4-acre site, MBTA by right, 15 units per acre. So we're 60 units. As it stands now, we have 31 bedroom, 32 bedroom, for a total of 60 units. We would plan to have a clubhouse, on-site amenities, fitness center, community room, resident cafe, work from home spaces, conference room, patio area with grilling stations, a resident courtyard. We like to incorporate lifestyle living in all of our communities. We're very conscious of that. Here's just a quick overview of the site plan, concept plan at the moment. Jim can get into this a little more later after we go through this slideshow. Here's a similar to be built. This is a 30-unit building from Gate 17. It's a garden style unit. This is something typically we would do in a 30-unit building. I think the only difference you would see here is it's a 35-foot height restriction, so it would be a flat roof rather than the full peaked roofs, but similar architecture. And this would be similar to be built clubhouse, somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000 to 3,500 square feet, restrooms, fitness center, leasing center, game room, work from home space, cafe, things of that nature. And then these are just some random slides of some relevant communities. These are multifamily communities we've built recently. This is Trailside Apartments. We just recently completed about a year ago in Boylston, Mass. This is a 60-unit building done with Gate 17. And these are all just, if you just want to go through these are all just different photos from Trailside, whether it's the building, the amenities. That was a slide of the indoor mailroom. We would do the same for those 30-unit buildings. Yes, so they'd be elevated buildings. So on the first floor, you'd have group 2 full ADA units. There's, I think it's 5% is the code. And then every unit in the building would be group 1 adaptable. So they would be adaptable to be accessible. So all 60 units would be adaptable. That's one benefit of having a 3-story building with an elevator.
We're good.
we want you to get an idea of who we are and what we want to do.
You don't have to go through all of
Yeah,
it.
you can
Because
speed
there
it
is
up, right?
probably- There's a lot.
They're beautiful.
They are.
And that's what we try to do. Everything we do is the best we can possibly do it within the means of the project itself. Some of the outdoor spaces, which we would have in this particular project as well. We have an outdoor grilling station, fire pit.
Do you have any, do any of your projects have the bicycles storage?
Bicycle storage in every one of them. In these particular buildings, we would have an indoor bicycle storage in each building, as well as an indoor package room at the lobby area.
So Stephen is a avid bicyclist.
Yes.
So he takes it very seriously. So we will take care of the bikes. We
The
find
bikers are
that
extremely important.
it is very important to Stephen. So we make sure we take care of the bikes. We have been putting the bike storage inside rather than outside. What we find is the outside bikes maybe aren't as sightly as, nice looking, say that nicely, as what people would do if they're going to be bringing their bike inside and taking care of it. We try to keep the grounds very, very pristine. We actually, to the point that, believe it or not, when you move in, if you have an animal, a pet, they actually take the animal's blood,
Pet
the
DNA.
of the animal, and if we find feces or anything, in the community that isn't picked up, we can go
Yeah.
back and find them. Because if you go to any of our communities, we take a lot of pride in it, and they are pristine. And it's the only way to keep them that nice. You want to be able to walk around in the grass.
So another
That's a
thing is
dog
dog
park.
parks is another thing we're big on. We have at least a 25% pet ownership. And we understand the need for dog parks because the need for pets. Everyone has pets. They love their pets. It's an extension of them. And we always try to build the biggest and the nicest dog park we can. at each project.
There's more dogs than kids.
Much more.
It's unbelievable.
Much more.
Yeah.
So this builder that was here that was another one we did in 19 Canal Street. This was on a 2.7 acre site. So that was 59 units on 2.7 acres. And we maximized it with outdoor living and everything you would want in a lifestyle living community, just on 2.7 acres. This particular building had all the amenities in the building rather than a clubhouse. There's your bike storage indoor.
Yep.
Is there a particular age group you see that you
Typically, it's
popular with?
it's older and young professional, not much in between. We don't see a lot of what should I say, middle-aged families, things of that nature. Not a lot of children, not a lot of families, mostly the Asian community and young professionals is typically what we see.
Typically, they say when you see the children in them, it's usually they're building a house or they're doing something to their house. They're pretty much always a town resident already and kind of, you know, moving from one, it's kind of a temporary thing. They're not typically staying long-term.
Yeah. Yeah, MAPC did a study on multifamily housing and found that they usually don't have a lot of.
Right. Even the state average, I think it's like 8 per 100 units.
Yeah.
In the entire state average. That national average, I think, is slightly lower. So that's it. That's kind of a little bit of who we are, what we do, and then I'll give it over to Jim here so we can go through the particulars of this project.
Colleen, I just emailed you a colored version of the site plan. I don't know if you could pull that up. Could you hear me?
I'm here. 1 second, Jim.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yes, she can, so don't say anything bad about it.
Keep it good.
And these are rentals,
They are,
right?
yes.
As she's pulling that up, can you just comment on the percent that obviously our bylaw is 10%? Is that what you're planning to uphold or add more
It
for
is,
affordable housing?
yes,
So
10%.
6 units.
Yes, 10%. She beat you to it. So again, so we have it as 20 Southville. Like when you look it up on the GIS maps, it doesn't actually have a number. Looking at the community to the right of us, which would be to the east of us. I'm sorry, yes, to the east of us is 30 Southville. That's the contractor yard. So there's a building and then, you know, some outside storage and, you know, his equipment and everything's there. That's who actually we're purchasing the property from, is 30 Southville. To the left of us is 20 Southville. That's as townies know it, CrossFit. That's the CrossFit location right there. And then behind us is obviously the railroad. So that's what we have. On the other side of the street is the residential area. 20 Southville is in the industrial zone, obviously has the MBTA overlay district on it, but it is actually the industrial zone. So this lot is 4 acres. It has about 700 feet of frontage. So what happens is it is a very narrow, wide lot. And the reason that I'm telling you that is there's one waiver that we'll be asking for. And then coming in front of the board, we'd be looking for 2 things. Is actually, we have one waiver that we would be needing, which in the MBTA, it does allow the board to grant that waiver as long as we can show why. And the other thing would be obviously site plan approval. The community right now, so we have we're at 60 units, so it's 2 30-unit buildings plus a clubhouse, which is consistent with the zoning. We have, as far as the parking, so parking is very important to us. It's obviously a very big thing for rentals and whatnot, because if you can't park, you're not going to be renting our units, and we need the units rented. So we've really looked into that, give more credit to Cohen than myself on that.
Quite a few math equations.
We've done a lot. We've had some permitted and operated them and realized we needed more parking. And so the multiplier that the town is using is a 1.5 per unit. What we have found in our communities and in our mistakes is it's actually 1.2 per bedroom is what works better for us. That multiplier comes out roughly to 1.8 per bedroom. So we have a little bit more parking than what the bylaw is requiring, but that's what we find in our experience has been working.
That was,
for
that
us.
was 1.5 is dictated by the state.
It's because that is what the state says, and that's on the ones that we had to change. We did 1.5 because that's what the state said, and that's what we thought was right. But obviously, in different
Well,
areas,
they think
the
that
boards-
everyone's going to walk
Correct.
because there's a train down the street.
Inside of
And the
120.
train goes everywhere, as
Right.
you know. If you're going to go to the grocery store, you're going to get on the commuter rail to go there.
Yes, yes. And I'm sure like closer to Boston, everything, it probably averages it to 1.5, but to this area, we find to be 1.8 has worked for us. And like I said, we've made the mistake and had to go back and fix it. So we're changing it moving forward. So we do have 55 spaces in front of each building and then 6 spaces in front of the clubhouse. The 55 parking spaces, sorry, I couldn't get that out, in front of each building does satisfy the 1.8 that we believe that we would need on that. So as we had as far as parking, accessibility, we do a lot of landscaping, a lot of trails, throughout, walking paths and whatnot that you saw in some of those slides. We don't have this on the plan yet, but that will be to come through the details of what we're doing. Again, landscaping. We do a real lot of landscaping, and we know that native is very important to you. So
You said the magic word.
I did. Might have had somebody to tell me that. The amenities, again, we'll have the clubhouse, the fire pit, the grills, the outdoor areas, and the bike storage. So really in closing, we have, I'm sorry. So let me get back to the waiver. So the one waiver that we would be seeking is the parking in the front of the buildings. In the bylaw, they ask for the parking to be in the rear of the building, which does make sense, right? Would you ideally always try to do that? In certain circumstances, it won't work on this one. I believe our hardship is 2 things. We do have the riverfront in the back. So we have the septic systems in the front under the parking areas. We'll have the septic systems, one for each building. And also, if the board was really against it and you said, no, we want the parking in the back, we could move the buildings up towards the road. But again, you'd have a 35-foot building, 35 feet off the road. So aesthetically, I don't feel like that would fit in with the neighborhood. We're more in line with what, our neighbors to the east, our neighbors to the west, our neighbors to the west and probably to the east as well, a little bit set further back with the parking in the front. With the intent of why I believe that was put in, that was to, give some kind of screening. That's why we tried to keep as much buffer in the front and to do some kind of natural screening going along the road to, kind of block off the parking a little bit to do the best that we could. So again, with the waiver, I think our hardship would be the septic system with wetlands and aesthetically keeping in with the neighborhood. I just really would not like to put those buildings that close to the road, ideally. So the waiver and site plan approval, those are the 2 things that we would be coming in. Again, Karina, thank you for spending
You're welcome.
many hours with me
Okay, too.
and coming up with this. It was a lot of help, and return it to the board to see as far as comments or questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Houlihan.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim and Cohen. And Stephen, thanks for coming. We appreciate the initial conversations and the reach out to Karina. I think it's super helpful. It allows us to communicate with the community as well, who I think we have attendees here, and you were copied on that communication as well.
Okay.
So I guess my first question is, I know this is so I know the density is 15 per acre. And is this actually 4 acres on the nose, or is it shy?
It's
And what's developable versus water land? So I guess it's, and within the MBTA overlay, I
So-
mean, is there any way to kind of make this less dense
So we,
economically?
sorry. So we do have all upland. So we don't have any actual wetlands, nothing, on the site that's, underwater or whatnot. There is a riverfront area, but it's not wet. The wetlands is on the other side. The river is on the other side of the railroad tracks.
But there would be a buffer, like a build buffer from that wetlands.
There
which
will,
you're-
yes.
you're-
Yeah,
you're
correct.
Accommodating here, which
Correct.
doesn't allow you to kind of build that acreage.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So yeah, that is along the back portion of it. And, as far as the density goes, I mean, we're trying to do, affordable housing and whatnot. So that's, what we believe
So you're saying the 60 units is what you're proposing? You wouldn't have any flexibility to go lower than that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
that's-
economics of it wouldn't, 60
These-
units is-
So the reason that they work with us, to be honest with you, is we do, again, we keep them for a long time. That's why you don't see a lot of these getting built right now. They're very, very tight. I know that seems, like they're dense, but obviously the cost of money, the cost of construction, everything is very, very high. And the only way that you can be able to accomplish giving affordable housing is with density. It's truly the only way, especially, Southborough, the land is not cheap. So that number obviously comes down as the density goes up. So that's how we accomplish the goal of affordable housing, but
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think we're all dealing with, I'll use the quote term affordability.
I know,
And I'll
it's
leave it
very
at that.
hard. It's a balancing.
Okay, so that was my first question. I appreciate it. I think that, we completely put forward the parking in the back for exactly the reasons you cited. I think the
Yep.
septic, I think that what your design is, at least, I completely appreciate it. I don't think anybody wants to put parking or buildings that are that close to the land. I don't think that helps the community at all. So I would agree that having the building setback makes sense. And as long as that screen
Mhm.
from a landscaping perspective, so it's not an eyesore for those that live across the street
Yes.
or are driving by, the work that you have done as a family development, they're beautiful properties. I think they are something that we would like to have invited into our town. And I think it would be just great to hear what our community thinks too. But I do appreciate that you came and spoke to us and shared your concepts so you can hear from the town as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Maria.
Hi there. Thank you for coming. I just want to ask another follow-up on the wetlands, and then I have a couple questions for you. I hadn't looked at our GIS maps or on Mass Mapper to see where the wetland, where the wetlands are here. Have you done that?
Yes, so we have had the wetlands located, and then also the survey went out. We did existing conditions and located the wetland flagging. So yeah, they've both been done. The wetlands themselves, she's pointing it out. So the wetlands themselves are on the other side of the track, of the railroad tracks. And then you have the river. Obviously the river is what that 200 foot is following, is actually the banking of the river. So there is no wetlands per se, but obviously with the buffer, that's, that comes onto this property.
Okay, so you're not subtracting anything due to wetlands from this property because you're in the 200-foot zone and you're not within the 100 no touch zone?
Correct. We're within the 1 to 200.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep.
I think I saw something in your materials about electrified vehicle parking, EV parking.
Yes. So
I just wanted to ask you about that, how many, because I think that a lot of developments are being built without anything. We don't mandate it in our code. Just wondering how many EV spots you'd have.
I can speak to that. So typically what we're doing now in a 60-unit development like this, we would probably do 2 EV spaces and we would do future. So we would do we wire either, so there's different ways to do it. We can either do 2 spaces and 20% future, that's the code right now, or we can do a 150 kW fast charger. If we do 4 spaces with that, that'll suffice for the 20%. And then even when we do that, we would also do some future spaces as well. At the end of the day, I don't think EV has gone as quickly as some people thought it would, but you know, it's out there. People have electric vehicles. There's going to be more of them. It could be the future at some point. So we understand that, we recognize that, we plan accordingly. Because if we can't provide electric vehicle charging to our tenants, they're going to go somewhere that does.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, we've got some developments that have no electric vehicle charging, and so we know that there's no electric vehicles up there.
Right.
But there are people up there.
No, we
So I
understand.
like to put them together, and I think that there would be more in the future. So thank you for that. And then my last question had to do with the walking trails. So it's pretty tight on this property.
Yeah, so I don't think
So
we would.
where's the walking?
Well, we
where
might
are
not
the
do a
trails?
walking trail on this property. What we probably would do is a loop,
Okay.
as big as we could. So we would do probably a loop around the whole perimeter of the property. So you could actually go out and do a loop. I mean, it's only 4 acres. It's 1,400 and, you know, maybe 1,800 feet or so, but we would do probably like an 1,800-foot loop. So if someone wanted to go outside in the wintertime, get a little exercise, walk around the building, they could. We maximize the open space to the best we can with the site we're dealing with.
Thank you.
Ms. Braccio.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I like the family dynamic. I appreciate that. So I don't really have a question for you tonight. I will just say that where this is a sensitive area with the Sudbury River. And so I wondered if you have had a conversation with conservation yet to get some maybe initial feedback if you're planning to do that. I'll just stop there.
So yes, I've had a meeting with Melissa, one meeting with Melissa so far, and we have had it all, the wetlands and everything delineated. So we will be filing a notice of intent fairly soon on this. It'll be one of the first things we do.
Okay, thank you, because I'll be interested to hear Concom's recommendations on the site as well. I guess that's it for now, other than I look forward to hearing, I know we have some of the neighbors here. I look forward to hearing their comments, and if they have any concerns that, you know, you can move forward as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wildner.
Thank you. Good evening. Thanks for coming out. Just 2 questions at the moment. Earlier you showed about your prior experience in Massachusetts, and it's nice to see that you're no stranger to this. Have any of those prior developments been built near or frankly adjacent to railroads, or would this be the first?
We do have another development that's permitted. We haven't built it yet, but is adjacent to a railroad. Yes.
Okay. The second question is, and it kind of goes, it's kind of in conjunction with the first, but not 100%, is historically, what deviations have you guys made from your very initial concept plan presented compared to what your as-built? I know that when developers go through these processes, they end up having to change things, whether it's a concession or, oops, we found this on the site and those kinds of things. So just because it seems like this style of development seems to be like in your bailiwick. So wondering from your dream to reality, what could you characterize those changes as?
So going through the process, there's always changes, right? So it's going to be a dialogue between us, and you're going to point things out, and hopefully, you know, we'll be changing things and working together. I wouldn't say it's specific. It's kind of broad. We have some that we've made bigger changes to, and some that haven't made, you know, too many changes to. But there is always some changes. There's always, you know, a discussion and things that we, like you said, we will find along the way and through the process, whether it's with this board or conservation or, you know, the neighbors or, you know, somebody. And, you know, when the neighbors get up, we do listen to them. We do, you know, this is their community. We're coming in. We're going to be neighbors. We want to be neighbors. We're not permitting these and leaving. We're staying, and I continue permitting, but my cousin stays, so I gotta, you know. But
we want to
they
be
do
good
change.
neighbors.
We do want to work with the boards and the neighbors and everybody.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So although this is a industrial parcel, the overlay, you have to comply with RESB, and I think that you understand that, but I just wanted to make that
Yes.
clear. There were little, on the plans, there are little circles in all the parking spaces. What are those?
I don't know why those went on there. And honestly, we said the same thing when it plotted, and then, to be honest with you, the scale's wrong. It was said 20, it's a 40 scale, so it was very, very preliminary. They will be removed and it will be fixed. So when
Okay.
when the actual
I'm like,
submittal
what
comes,
is
I know.
So the flat roof has me a little concerned because the code does say that it needs to look like the surrounding neighborhood, and all the pictures that you showed have the gambreled roof, gabled roof.
Yep.
So that,
So the height restriction, obviously at 35
Right.
feet, you're, I think a median height on those particular roofs is 40 feet. So you're above the restriction. There's things we can do to do a semi-flat roof and get right at that 30 feet and still try to stay within the characteristic, but it's going to be semi-flat at the very least. We haven't done them.
The two buildings beside us, I know the CrossFit, that one has a flat roof.
well, it says that the residential neighborhoods
Okay.
that, so just something to think about. That's
Okay.
my initial concern, that it will look like the CrossFit next door. And then screening is very important, and you had brought up landscaping.
Yeah. And we do, if you go to the communities,
They're very conscious of
Cohen, my uncle has always pushed the landscaping significantly. So it's, you're welcome to obviously drive by any of them, but they plant mature trees, and I mean, they're beautiful right out of the gate. And he does that in all of his communities.
Okay. In the clubhouse, I love the clubhouse, but the only accessory use by right in the code is like a parking garage. I don't know. Where does the clubhouse come in?
That's a good question. We'll have to think about that because also might be concerned about the FAR, the
Yeah.
Florida area ratio.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
that would be the thing that would be,
That would be the first thing to go, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
depending on where everything turns out. But we'll look at the code more and see.
Yeah, obviously, we love the clubhouse. It makes a better community. It creates lifestyle living. Residents love it. It's just good overall for everyone. But obviously, if something has to change, we'll look at that.
But otherwise, I think it's a good concept, and I really appreciate you coming in.
While we're
Any,
together.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it's a process, and
Any questions from?
Hi, Jim Waddell from 21 Darlene Drive. Just to follow up on Mimi's question, do you have any pictures of a flat roof that you've built? Because I think it is remarkably different, right? Than what you showed. If you could provide those at a future, that would be great for folks to see. And related to that, would you consider doing 2 floors with a roof that would maybe provide fewer units, but might be more attractive?
I think you're always trying to go up as far as for density and it cost wise, especially with the footprints that we have. So we would be going up to the 3 stories, and
Financials won't work for you with 2 floors is basically what it is.
no.
Okay, thank you.
Freddie Gillespie, 78 Southville Road. First, I want to thank the planning board for holding this discussion and to the proponents for coming in. I look forward to working with you because it's, as we know, these will be a long process, right? This is just the beginning. Thank you for what you've provided so far. I have a couple of questions I'd like to address early on because I don't think, well, there's not enough detail to go into right now, right? But first of all, it's about the 35-foot maximum height. And I just would like to get this, I mean, maybe my thought process when I read the MBTA bylaws different, but I thought the Res B was 2.5 stories, 35 feet, not 3 stories, 35 feet. And then when I read the MBTA bylaw, it kind of doesn't match what the Res B says, but the bylaw says it should comply with the underlying zoning. So I think having that straightened out right at front would answer a lot of this, because I think what the neighborhood was expecting is what we just heard from Jim was, you know, peaked roofs, not 3 stories flat roof. So, I mean, does the planning board have an opinion on that? Did we misunderstand what the 35, 2.5 stories? Doesn't say 3 stories, 35 feet. And I think it's somewhat confusing because Res B doesn't totally align with what you put in the zoning code E1 table. Says 2.5 stories or 35 feet, but Res B, earlier it says, are governed by the requirements of the underlying zoning district, and the underlying zoning district says 2.5 stories, 35 feet, not 3 stories, 35 feet.
So the underlining says 35 feet, comma, 2.5 stories. So so that's a good question. I don't know
Okay.
if that means either or.
Well, and then you probably, what's in the zoning code is,
Mimi, can I just jump in with a question?
Sure.
So I went back and I printed out what Article 8 was that went to town meeting, and there's a graph. And in the graph, it says dimension standard 1A, 1B, which
We're
would be
1A.
these, but it does say in the chart, 2.5 stories or 35 feet. So just for clarity, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm not grabbing it right now. I thought the definition under B was, Res B was different. So that was just one, and if I find that different, I will email it to you. But my other bigger question, why I think this is somewhat premature, you can see this green line, that's the 200-foot riverfront area. And the riverfront area is not developable unless you have an exemption or permits from conservation. So I think that's your first step. The only time you can develop in here is redevelopment prior to 1996. And until recently, that whole lot was wooded. So there's no pre-development that's occurred there, to my opinion. Conservation may have other perspectives. You know, they may look at soil, but they're expert. But as far as I can tell, and that includes grading, no soil disturbance. I'm not sure what other things come into play, which is why the first step before you come to the planning board is really conservation. Where's your footprint? Because that's a significant amount of land that's not buildable for the 200-foot riverfront area. Permits can be issued, waivers, whatever, but you need to start there because I don't think you're getting that level of density. But maybe you are. But let's find out before we have lots of input and meetings and people coming for discussions. Thank
Well, you said that was your first step.
Yes, correct.
That Concom was their first
Yeah,
step.
we're aware of that.
This
and
is just a
you're right.
discussion.
Well, when we're discussing it, you know, I think the first thing is that maybe it's not all developable. And the second thing I want to bring up is there was a misstatement, I think, in the email Marnie sent out. And just want to be sure we're all on board, is that it allows 15 units per acre, the zoning. Doesn't require it. I don't know if that was just a misrepresentation. And I would like to have the planning board, if they can provide, when we went forth with this, there's the lot next door, which is about 2 acres, 2 point something. When I did the math, I came up with between the two lots, it was 94 units. But I was told that wasn't true, that wouldn't happen, that the state was only allocating 65 units that we got credit for. You know how you had to have so many units for the MBTA in the half mile, and we got 65 units for those 2 lots, and it was based on them looking at developability. And when I look at the 2 lots, I know the other lot is not in the riverfront area. It's already been developed for many years, so it is much more likely to be able to be developed at 15 units an acre for 30 units there. And if the state was only giving us 65, in their opinion, the second lot at 4 acres is going to come in at about 30 units, not 60. And I think whether that was just, on the back of a napkin figuring, it has some validity of what, our expectations told to us by the planning board when I said 94 units, and I was told, no, it won't be. But right now with this first less developable parcel coming in at 60, and I know the next parcel will be developable completely, pretty much, because there's constraints. So if you have information from the state on why they didn't give us the full 94 units credit, what they were looking at, that might be helpful. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Maria?
Just to comment, I really appreciate Ms. Gillespie's keen observations. I hadn't noticed the discrepancy of the 2.5 acres, 2.5 floors, 35 feet. I do think that the premise of the overlay district was to rely on the underlying zoning. And I think we made that clear throughout every hearing that we had. I think the meaning is different, to be honest. In the underlying zoning, it's 2.5 stories, 35 feet. It's not or. So I think that or might be misplaced in our code. And it was unintentional, but I think it's very important. So that might be something that we have to look into and maybe even fix.
There's also a height definition in the code, which might help clarify some of this, because I think there may be some footage allowed above it based that it's not considered part of the height. I could be wrong, I just read it quickly, but the height definition is pretty, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My microphone's the short one here. There's a definition in the town code under section 174-2 for height. So I'm just pointing that out, that maybe we can look at that and see where that ties into. Okay, sorry.
Any other questions or comments? Is there anyone online?
No hands raised.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, board.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you for the thorough presentation.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thanks.
Merry Christmas. Have good holidays.
Thank you. You too. The next item on the agenda is the Industrial Park District expanded uses. Is this you, Ms. Houlihan?
It is, and I have nothing to update the planning board with, but we'll certainly revisit that in January of 2026.
Do you think on that one, do you think we should ask town council if there's any need for an industrial park district? And if not, just have an industrial district and roll it into one?
So, Mimi, the only thing I thought about just recently, which is why I asked Matt that question, was in Dover, that the battery storage refers to industrial. And so if we make all the industrial parks industrial, does that mean all of those areas are subject to battery storage, which is Dover protected?
So I don't think Dover refers to a district, because Dover, you can't prohibit those uses in any district.
Okay, so it's not specific to industrial?
No.
Okay.
Not the new, when the new siting, when the new permitting siting regs, right, Mimi? Right now, there's restriction on where they can be cited, but in a year,
Is there?
I believe that's when that 40B approach. I don't know if there's a restriction now. I'm just throwing it out there because it came.
I have something that's dated from Hingham or one of the towns that describes section 3A or section 9. And it there's case law, and it was specific to industrial versus other parts of town. So that might have been, it could be 15 years old. I don't really know.
Okay.
But that was just one consideration, is if we do roll them all together, is it kind of foiling something else that we're not really thinking about?
Well, so you're saying that they're allowed in industrial districts, not industrial park?
Oh, I don't know enough about the battery storage. But I'll share with you what I had been reading. And it was, there was some case law about a town that was trying to put in battery storage in industrial versus another zone in town. And it got into reasonable regulations and whether or not their bylaw allowed it in the other districts. So it could be, something completely separate than what we're trying to.
So I think that there have been towns that have prohibited battery storage systems, and it's been appealed, and they've lost on appeal. And that's what we got, that legal advice from town council that they're considered a Dover use. In a Dover use, you cannot have unnecessary regulations that could thwart that use anywhere. It's not district specific.
And it's a Dover use because it's just tied to solar, even if just a minimal amount is what triggers any part of it to be falling under that.
Yeah. So that was just because the industrial park, we've never really, other than Ken's really, we haven't really had that use. And there's such specific uses there now that we've found to be outdated. And what we're updating seems to me that it would apply to industrial also. It's just I thought I'd throw that out there before we do something.
My only thought would be to go through the industrial uses and see if there's anything really out there that we'd want to somehow regulate as an industrial park versus industrial, and then maybe come back to this planning board and say, like, here's where the outliers are, and if we wanted to combine, then maybe we go to town council. But let me just do that first step of diligence and research and come back to this planning board.
Perfect.
Can I just add one thing too? So when I was doing my research on the different towns that the AG has rejected their zoning bylaws on, it says ruling towns can only regulate them for health, safety, or welfare, and not through general bylaws or prohibitive zoning. So, and again, like I said, I'll send Karina and Colleen all of this, and they can share it. It's different, what different towns did, as well as why each individual town got dinged back. So, can I ask Marnie a question before we move off this?
You may.
So, time has gone by. My mind is maybe not as sharp as it should be. So Marnie, where did we leave off? We were ready to go to town meeting. So let me just ask you a process question then. So the draft that you did, I thought was great, and you put a ton of work into it. Has that been shared for feedback with other boards and committees? I should know the answer, but I don't.
I don't think it was. I think we shared a little bit, but I don't think anyone ever opened the email and reviewed it. I think it kind of got like second seat. I also think that there were things that came up with just casual conversations of other uses that we hadn't thought about that we should modify.
Okay.
So I think there just needs to be a little bit more work done, circulate through this board, get feedback, and then once that happens, we would then like review again, like what I just said with the industrial, if
Yeah.
there's anything big different, and then if not, we could probably circulate around to other boards. And like maybe the original committee that sat down to be the thought partners here, to the brain trust that initially put the draft together. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, why I ask is I'm thinking town meeting is in April, and realistically, they want the warrant articles in by probably end of February, maybe beginning of March. So, I mean, I think this is so well thought out, and it really needs to get done. So I'm just trying to think how we can help, to maybe help you even to, kind of move this along to thinking of a end of February timeframe is all. That's all. Thank you.
Just one more comment is like anything, we have to communicate and educate and drive awareness for that town meeting. So I think if in January we can all come to a consensus that this is in a good place and we're good, then maybe we try to do I know there's the 55 in housing. And then if we're going to do a BES bylaw, if we're going to do those three, maybe we just kind of act quickly to get everything up and running. So the January meeting where we at least, I don't know where the best would be. I don't know if you're volunteered to write that or if we want that for town meeting, but we already have one that's coming in to zoning board on Wednesday from the Blue Sky Utility Company, right?
Marnie, are you saying BESS, BESS?
Yes,
I was.
battery
Yes,
energy.
Is
the
this some-
battery,
okay,
yeah,
BESS.
the
I-
BESS
okay.
bylaw.
I think,
Gotcha.
my personal opinion, I would like to see something done sooner rather than later because, as Matt said, they're coming. And I think they're going to be coming quick and fast. I just don't know in 2 months how we draft something, craft something, get public feedback and educate. Because I think a lot of the questions we had here tonight are going to get asked at town meeting. And I think, there's a lot of concerns from a lot of people that may or may not understand the safety aspects that are put in place. So I think probably we should work towards maybe a fall town meeting, just my suggestion on that. And I would be happy to help, craft something on that and because I've read them all.
Also, the state is coming out with
Yes.
regulations. They have draft right now. So I would be hesitant to write a bylaw and have it conflict with their regulations. And I don't think that they're finalized until December of 2026.
Can we put something interim in place? I just worry. I think you're gonna see more of these come in before that comes out. And I think if there's anything we could do I know you can't restrict because the state is looking to.
So I think right now we can permit based on our current code, correct?
Yeah, well, according to the prior building commissioner, Gene Novak, he had opined that fuel storage was battery energy storage systems in the code. He had tied that because the current application had asked him, had found that use in the code under the district at 150 Corderville, right? So 150 Corderville, I can't recall what zone it's in, but that one had fuel storage, and they said, is battery energy storage systems, is that fuel storage? And Gene had opined yes. I think Mark Robideau may have also, but I don't want to speak for him. But that's why they have an application in.
So if the board would like, I think if there's already something in the code, maybe we can tweak it a little bit until we get something more permanent. And I'd be happy to sit with Mark Robideau and get his thoughts on, whether it's good as it is or, things that we may be able to put in there for safety and whatnot that may not be in the code. So that's just a suggestion. And that could be something that could be potentially for annual town meeting. You know, if it's just a few tweaks here and there, and I think that's easy enough to explain to town meeting that it's allowed. We're just trying to make it a little safer if we can. So I would be happy to have that conversation with him and report back to the board at our January meeting.
Awesome.
Thank you, Lisa. And I also noticed when you mentioned the model bylaw, and I quickly went online, they're long. And so I just don't think it would pass annual town meeting without the education.
And confusing. Did you read it?
Well,
I
no.
don't understand any of it.
It's so complex also. That means it's not going to pass, but I do worry about the, well, okay, so now we know that there'll be, the proponents who are coming forward will be under fuel storage. So I think it is a good idea to look at that and see if there's anything that we would like to change that could get us in a little closer maybe to where we're going. So would we have fuel storage as well as BESS, or would fuel storage turn into BESS? Would we still have fuel
I
storage?
think
as
you'd keep fuel storage because there are other
Right.
existing
fuels?
businesses that fall under that use.
Okay.
And it would be a complement to that, like a
I
clarification.
think we're running a little off topic
Yeah.
here.
There was an email I sent everybody on November 10th or so that explained the timeline of these regulations too. If you look back, if you don't have it, let me know. I'll forward it to you again. It was November 10th, 2025 at 11:50 a.m.
So now on the 12th, we'll come back with industrial park uses and get where we're going from there. The next item on the agenda, subdivision rules and regulations update. Mr. Belknap.
Yes, thank you. I actually just received a message from Bill Cundiff this afternoon with some comments and edits to some working documents I sent to him. So I haven't had time prior to this meeting to go through those, but I did get feedback. So my next step is to read them over in detail, have a conversation with him if anything's unclear, make sure I've incorporated your comments as well. Lather, rinse, repeat till we've got a format that both he and I are comfortable with, and then share something with the board for review and discussion. So long way of saying that since last time, yep, we've made some headway, and I should have an update for the next meeting, which is January 12th.
Is that A&R?
Great.
I'm sorry, the what you're focusing on, was that A&Rs right now, or was it more than that?
The two things under consideration or sort of in working process right now is the A&R guidelines and from the site walk that we did a little while back about subdivisions. I still have my notes and photographs from that. I just have not had a chance to.
The sidewalk issues, right? Things like related to like more walking on, where the trees are and
Yes,
the
retaining
right of
walls
way.
and.
Okay, it's those two focus because
Yeah,
Bill,
those two are pretty meaty
Yeah.
themselves. I'm hoping
Okay.
everything else is much simpler. I'm going to regret signing up for this.
I didn't copy.
I mean,
it.
what?
I don't know if you know this, Alan, but nothing is simple.
No.
When you touch zoning, it's complicated.
And I didn't copy you on email, but I talked to Bill a little bit this morning about the A&R requirements that we have and kind of reviewed some of the things that were always missing, that the applicants would continuously over and over miss. So
Okay.
There was a list of items. He was going to clarify those. And we have a checklist too
Mhm.
of once an A&R is signed, what happens with it.
Yes.
I had provided him a copy of that checklist too.
Okay.
I didn't
think-
go through that form we have because it takes 10 minutes to find how to get there. And then,
Yeah.
So I just told them and then,
Okay,
but I can update you on that.
great. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is zoning map update.
Good news, I've been working with CAI Technologies, the consulting firm that does our GIS mapping. And if you recall, part of the MBTA Communities warrant article was to update the zoning map to show the overlay district. So I emailed out the PDF we got of the new zoning map, and I vetted it pretty good. The other change on that, in addition to the hatched areas for this, actually 4 sub-districts, there was also, we found that in 2014, there was a zoning district change for the Gilbunkian property on the corner of Corderville and Breakneck Hill. So we researched that a little bit and I discovered that it had changed from, if you look at the zoning map, the note is in the bottom right corner, amended from residential to industrial. I just can't recall. No, it went, hold on. Yeah. Because there were multiple businesses there years ago and the lot configuration changed. Let me just look at the map myself and I can tell you. It was industrial. I mean, it was residential and it went to industrial. I'm sorry. If you look in the bottom right corner, let's see if I can just read it. Yeah. So you're supposed to carry amendments on the zoning map when they change, so it's clear when things change. So this is called the 2024 zoning map because it was approved at the town meeting, most recent town meeting of 2024, which was the special town meeting. The Article 30, which was amended in 2014, I believe it also included updating the zoning map, but it just never got done. Okay. I don't think there was anything really else. And again, the boundaries of the property lines are updated for the most current work they do for the assessors maps for the assessing department. So previously, when we had the last zoning map update in 2021, the board voted to accept it. And then what happens is if you don't have any changes or if you need more time to look at it, I have the consultant's supposed to give me 2 full-size hard copies, one which gets filed with the town clerk. And if anybody wants a full-size print, we can have them made, any department. But last time I made several prints and I'd say half of them were utilized. Everyone else wanted just a PDF. But like building department likes to hang one on the wall, the assessor does, we do, zoning does. So building commissioner does. So previously there was a actual vote that was held and the notice of vote gets filed with the town clerk along with a copy of the map. There was one other small change I noticed. It wasn't, it was more like a Scrivener's thing. If you look near the Coslin Pond, just outside it was in the light purple, the industrial park, where there's a thin strip as you head towards Madison Place. One of the notes that showed the length of, there was a call out for a dimensional note. It says 1,122 feet. Somewhere between 2006, or somewhere between 84 and 2006, that note had slipped down. So when you scaled it, it wasn't 1,122 feet. So I caught that and I said, oh, just move the dimension up where it was supposed to be. So in the interim, some other update had accidentally moved the leader arrows down where they weren't. So it made it kind of an erroneous dimension. Now it's where it is supposed to be. It's right to the west of Sarin. It's if you look at Madison Place where the MBTA overlay district is, and you go just to the right into the next zoning district, the lighter purple, see there's a dimension that says 1,122 to Deerfoot Road. That was actually had sunk down to the south, that leader, and I just had to move it back because it looked like it was only 800 feet.
It's your eagle eyes, Karina.
Well, there might be others, but that's the one I saw. Well, that's the other thing. I have them updating. They did some open space layer fixing, and one of the ones we had like $150 left. So they agreed to put the open space area on the Dell EMC property that everybody asks about. So when you go to the GIS online mapping and you go to this area, I don't know if you have to log on as a staff, but you turn the open space on and that open space shows up now. It was considered parcel 8C of the subdivision approval for the industrial park subdivision. If you have any questions, you can just call me. I'll walk you through it. You can see it.
And Karina, what did you say the process is? We have to vote to approve this?
Yes.
Okay.
Accept it. Let me see. To accept the zoning map. I can't. If you're ready, if you feel comfortable, I vetted it pretty strongly, the mapping and with the first go round, because if you recall, we went from 2006 to 2021, and I went through everything on that. That's why it took a while. So,
Karina, I do have one question on the Coslin or Crystal Pond area that you're talking about. So looking on Mass Mapper, the ponds there appear different on ArcGIS map than it does on Mass Mapper. And I think Mass Mapper is what conservation uses. And I just was wondering, does that have anything to do with what you were just talking about?
those are within the open space restricted area, but I know what you're saying, but it was my understanding that the water features are from the Mass Mapper layers. I think CAI uses those data layers.
Okay.
So if it looks different, I don't know why. Maybe, are you on the GIS mapping now? Yeah, I see. Yeah, so, that's the GIS mapping. On this zoning map, it might not print exactly as precise.
Okay.
It should, but you know, when you're not zoomed all the way in, where like you can with this, but it looks pretty close. Is there, I know what you're saying. Sometimes it looks a little longer, but it looks pretty close.
Okay.
Sometimes the contrast of the purple color and the blue on the PDF of the actual zoning map, because this is the one that gets used to print.
Yeah.
But now we just put it on the websites everywhere and they zoom in and out. But it's a reference tool, just like the GIS mapping. It's not for super precision.
Yep. That's true. Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate that.
And I can't recall, maybe someone here can, I don't think the planning board signed the last plan. I think it was just this notice of vote went with a copy of the plan to the town clerk, but I'll verify that. And if it is, then we'll get one that has to be signed, but I don't think it was.
Are we ready to accept this, or do you want to look at it for another month?
There'll be more coming.
I make a motion to accept the zoning map update for 2024 as presented on the evening of December 8th.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
Dolniak, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karina, for all your hard work.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, next item on the agenda, 4042 Central Street site plan compliance. First, I want to just briefly summarize our emergency meeting that we had last week. So per Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 18, an emergency is a suddenly generally unexpected occurrence or set of circumstances demanding immediate attention. On Wednesday, so as you know, we have a site plan that we haven't received as-built, so we don't know where in the process they are on 4042 Central Street. They were looking for a temporary certificate of occupancy. In our code requires that a bond acceptable to the planning board before a temporary certificate of occupancy, after all health and safety issues have been resolved. So we didn't have that either. In For bonding, we have our engineering consultant go out and look and see what's done, and they make submit a bond estimate, and that's what we go from. But we didn't have any of that information. So, and the proponent had been advertising that they were having an open house on Saturday, December 6th. On Wednesday, the town planner found out that there was some agreement in the works to allow the proponent to have a temporary certificate of occupancy for their event. And after email exchanges on Wednesday afternoon, it appeared that this activity and this agreement was bypassing the planning board, which is a violation of our zoning code. So as chair, I determined that this was an unexpected circumstance demanding immediate action. I thought the planning board should be informed with what was happening and determine a course of action before Saturday, December 6th. The course of action was the board voted to give me authority to speak with for the board and request a meeting with town officials that were involved in this agreement, and to find a path forward without violating the bylaw. So that's why the emergency meeting was called, and that was the immediate action. The proponent was invited to be here tonight and declined. I don't know if there's anything else this board would like to discuss, but as of right now, I don't know what's been done, what hasn't been done as far as compliance with the plan. It has also been stated that because of Dover, they do not have to comply with the site plan, but that is untrue, and that has been confirmed by town council. It's a binding, enforceable decision.
Can I just?
Sure.
I know the proponent is planning to come the 12th. I would just ask that we have Attorney Tallerman present at our meeting. I think that's important where legal action has been threatened. I think he took part in the hearing process with us on this. So again, I would just ask that an invitation is extended to town council. Thank you.
Does the board agree with that? Okay. Anything? Yes, sir.
I have a question. I wasn't part of the board when the whole project was moving through the process. So from what I'm gathering is that Mass Historical spokesperson Michael is saying that he believes that Dover does protect that project. Our board's contention is that it doesn't, and it was discussed upon previously. The part I'm not clear on is throughout the process was, I don't want to say a ruling, that's not the right word, but was an opinion requested about whether or not this is or is not protected under Dover, and was Southborough Historical and Michael made aware of what that opinion is?
So this is a Dover use. It was permitted under the restrictions of Dover. Town council took part in all the hearings, as did their attorney. The decision was agreed upon with this board and with the proponent and their attorney. Now he's saying because he's Dover, he doesn't have to comply, and that's just false. So in the new, I think there were new Dover guidelines that were referenced. If you read those guidelines, what it is, it talks about case law in their broad view on what they consider to be educational or religious uses. That's it. And we considered him an educational use. He was permitted under that, or the society was permitted under those constraints. So there's nothing new.
Okay, so, okay, all right, thanks.
Maybe if I could just add, I think one of his emails said that they're planning to do a modification of major site plan approval. And so I agree with Lisa. I think that we should have town council, I think it's beneficial to hear them. Obviously, we want to hear what's been done, what's left to be done. And also, what the thinking is of why they, feel the way they feel. I mean, I personally think that, we all did the best that we could with that decision. But if there is something in that decision that is conflicting in any way, I'd like to know about it. I'd like town council to be here for that. So I understand town council has said, yes, he signed it. There was no appeal. Yes. But I think it's fair in any contract, if there wasn't inadvertent error or the thinking has changed or something like that, we should at least hear them out and we should all have a dialogue.
Yeah, I completely agree in dialogue. It's been very difficult to do with this particular proponent. And I don't know, they said they wanted a modification. That means that we start all over again. I don't know if they think that they're going to come in for a meeting and say, we want to modify, and the board says, yes, that's the code. That's not the code. You start the whole process over again. It's another major site plan approval, legal notifications, hearing process. The whole thing starts over again.
And I would think that until a new approval or whatever outcome happens, the old approval still stands because they exercised the permit with that decision in place. So they kind of have to figure out what their end goal is here. We basically just want as-built to be reviewed so that the project can be closed out. That's all. We're not asking to change anything different from what was approved previously. It's probably a good percentage on the way there, but we just need it vetted and confirmed for the record so that there's no problems in the future for him, for the historical society, or the town. It protects both sides. That's all. So. And if everything is completed and it's reviewed and it shows it's completed, there is no bond necessary because it will be a compliant site plan. Yeah, there may be some minor issues.
The step for our engineers to go out to do the bonding, I guess if it's called, that's after the as-built, or is that something that gets
That's
initiated?
after. So
They get it-
first,
they get the as-built.
first we request the as-built to be provided. They submit to us. I already have a scope and fee for as-built review. They go out, they check, here's the approved site plan, here's the as-built, here's what was built. Do they all match? What's different? It requires an engineer certifying letter identifying if there was any deviations. And then if there are deviations, they're brought to our attention. And then the board can ask the town consultant to do a bond review, which then they take the items that are not completed yet to be compliant, whether they were built non-compliant or there were actual differences, changes made because of circumstances. Those get itemized based on Mass DOT standard costs, so that everybody gets those same unit costs applied to their project. And then that determines what the bond review, and if they want to finish the job and correct those things or provide a bond, some of those things may be mitigated and said, prove that this works, even though, like, for example, Northborough Road, one of the rain gardens was constructed too small and it was supposed to be larger. They were given the opportunity to prove that the smaller rain garden worked as a detention basin to address the stormwater management on site, to say it was still compliant. But that takes time, so hopefully everything is and gets built to how it's supposed to be, and it shows up that way in the as-built. That would be the most direct path to the finish line.
Anything else?
Sorry for that long sentence.
Next item on the agenda, planners report.
Mimi, one of the things you wanted to talk about were the tricentennial committee banners.
Oh, yeah. So a member of the Tricentennial Committee reached out to me. They want to advertise for the tricentennial in 2027 and put like banners on the phone poles and different things, have sponsors, and they'd have some banner at their business that's saying they sponsored it. The problem is that banners are prohibited in Southborough. And this wouldn't really, you can do a temporary sign, but that's only 30 days. So I was wondering if we should do a carve out within the sign bylaw just for the Tricentennial Committee, or how we can, so it's not, we can't do a variance because there are no use variances, or how to best address this situation.
Quick question, a carve out would still require town meeting approval, correct? Yeah. And then, like, cause I gotta say, I don't know about anybody else, but when you drive through some of those quaint towns like Hudson, on their flagpoles, they're really nice. They do a nice job to like hang certain things. Are those also not allowed in our town?
Are they banners? Do they move? Do they flap in the wind?
They might if the wind's heavy enough.
I don't,
But it's like, it's kind of like like they have like veterans of the wars and they hang. And they might swing, but they're not like a flowy.
so, so
They're-
I don't know if that would be a banner.
Yeah, so I mean that, I don't think it would be called a banner. I think it's a sign. But like, could we do those things in town on do we even have light posts? We do on Main Street now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Could we do those on our light posts? I'd have to look at our bylaw. Can we hang things on our signs?
So the question to me was a banner, and they reached out to the building commissioner and town council that said banners aren't allowed.
I mean, I think we need to do whatever we can to raise money for our tricentennial. So if it means like a bylaw carve out, I'd fully support that to be able to put something up. The question would be if it is a carve out, to make sure it's a carve out for tricentennial, because I think as soon as you put it out there, we'd have banners everywhere.
I'll wait. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. This is maybe just a process question, but did this come to us because it got kicked down everywhere else, or would this naturally be like a select board question, or is it to us because it looks at our bylaw? And okay, because to me it seems, I get process is process, but it would seem weird that we would need to go to town meeting with an article in the warrant to permit a banner to raise money to celebrate our town. Like there's no other way to do this without incredible friction?
If it's a banner, no. But if it's not, I'll have to look at a sign and see.
If you look at the definition of banner under 174-11 signs, any and every sign, whatever, this might not apply, any and every sign, whatever the nature, the material or manner or composition, message or design frequently displayed on a pole or staff, which can be freestanding or attached to a building or a structure and temporary or removable in nature. Official flags of governmental jurisdictions properly displayed shall not be considered as banners or otherwise considered as signs for the proposes of the zoning bylaw. I don't know if that applies. There's some stuff in there. I'm not sure what a governmental jurisdiction, an official flag of governmental jurisdiction.
Town council opined that would not apply
Oh,
in
we
this
did?
instance. Yes.
Okay, all right.
So that's pretty clear. Any and every sign, whatever the nature of the material or manner of composition, message, or design frequently displayed on a pole or staff, which can be freestanding. So we would need to change our definition and our town bylaw. Nothing is simple, Alan. Welcome to the planning board.
Or just do a carve out to the tricentennial. Or perhaps with the board's permission, we can ask town council if he can think of an easier way to allow the tricentennial committee to raise money for the tricentennial.
So just a quick question, like how big is this banner and where is it going? Like a banner, you have usually between two poles or like.
Well, like
Is it giant?
the Hudson that,
I mean, like, so I have to, my personal feeling is I like those veteran ones that are on the streets. I know Marlboro has it too. Yeah. But and they're permanent. I think, I don't know if, you know, would
well,
this be up-
tricentennial wouldn't be permanent
how long, I mean, so we have. no
until the
time?
tricentennial, 2027.
So like next week, if they could put it up, they want to do that?
Yeah.
I don't support that. I think it's a little too early.
Well, they're trying to get interest in get people to realize that the tricentennial is coming up. They're having all kinds of events and.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with Deb a little bit on this. I think we're opening a door and when the next town, whatever, wants to put a banner up for Neary School or, you know what I mean? I think we just need to be really, really careful because there's always an exception to a rule. And if you do it for one, but I will say, I was saying to Alan years ago, there was a banner that stretched across 85 by Woodward. I can't remember what it was for, but it was there for a decent period of time. And I don't know how that was allowed. Then.
Was it before the Town Center Plaza on Corderville Road?
No, because I lived.
That's when the sign bylaw came.
Okay,
into
so anyway,
effect.
somebody had done it and I guess nobody complained about it, so it was up. I can't remember.
There
what it
wasn't
was for.
we didn't have a sign bylaw at that time. So if it was that banner was before the Town Center
wasn't.
Plaza.
It was after, because I lived at
Oh, it
Town
was
Center was here
after?
when I moved to town.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, so it was after 2001, but there was some, I can't remember what it was for, but it was a big banner and it hung across both lanes of traffic and I can't remember what it was for, but yeah.
That's why. I was
Not
wondering,
allowed.
Where's this thing? I mean, I don't
Yeah.
support across the street like that. I mean, hanging off of a building, hanging off a pole, I can imagine it for some period of time, but not a year and a half and not across the street. Because one, you're going to end up with multiple down the street, like a festival. I'm not sure. I'd like to see.
Colleen put up an example.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm not sure where it's looking at. It's Hudson.
Oh, okay.
that's like
That's like a flag.
Yeah.
No,
I
but
mean-
it hangs like the flag, like, okay.
Right. It looks like it's secured both top and bottom,
Yeah.
which prevents it like flapping. So
Yeah.
it is fabric and it's not a solid material like wood, versus like just being tethered on one side and letting the wind have its way with it.
It's not using motion to.
Mimi, I would certainly be in favor of having a conversation with town council and finding the easiest path, for this.
These are typically done in towns with the veterans in mind. And it's a fundraiser. So people buy them and they're put up around town with a loved one's name or not. This one happens to be a banner in support of a parade. So it's a fundraiser for the parade. But that's what they go up for. It's usually a town veterans or town events.
Right. So we'll ask council on that one.
Got it.
Two councils.
For the easiest path to allow that sign to occur for a temporary amount of time.
Is it a carve out that in the bylaw that is brought to town meeting or any other things ask
Okay. Circle to it. Okay. And then, 150 Corderville Road Battery Energy Storage System. So that is, For one thing, the Board of Health is having a presentation tomorrow on battery energy storage systems as well. Their meeting starts at 9 a.m.
So are you still going? So Lisa and I are going. We didn't post a meeting because we didn't hear back from anyone
Yeah, there are
else.
only two, and then I'll listen to. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, virtual. Yeah. The housing production plan was approved, just so you know that. There was a lot of congratulating in the emails.
Congratulations to the Affordable Housing Trust on the approval of the housing production plan. Good work and very fast.
Something else I was gonna tell you. What is it? Oh, we already discussed the proposed 2026 ATM warrant articles. So right now, there's kind of three on the table, right? There's I'm sorry, I got a brain lapse. Industrial Park, the 55 plus modification amendment, and then the it's on the agenda here. I thought there were three.
Well, maybe sign for
Maybe the sign.
Yeah, we were suggesting battery storage, but now she's saying fall, so it would,
Oh,
it'd
okay.
require way too much education.
Well, that's the one. It was. Oh, yeah. Fuel storage, that's right. Okay, the planning board budget. So, Marnie was tasked to work with me on it. I developed a budget. Marnie reviewed it initially. You had some comments about maybe increasing the open space for the just under $10,000 that we do every year for our open space monitoring program. I try to hold it around just under 10,000 for procurement reasons, and it's just about enough that we can do every year for the consultant and for us to manage that. What I would like to consider though is last year we had $5,000 appropriated to us for the opera funds to do the deed research database update. Lucas Environmentally was contracted to do that work. We had 10 locations slated. It's probably about 12 or 15 in total. Under this $5,000, that was about 40 hours of work. So they were able to address 5 of those locations. So I was thinking if the planning board's on board with it, I could include another $5,000 in the budget now. And my only concern is that I'm aware that the town is trying to hold the bottom line to 2 years ago. But 2 years ago, we gave some money back. So it dinged us a little bit. But our budget is not extremely large compared to some of the others. And I think it's really beneficial. We invested so much in that database that we should keep it going. And it's been since 2015. And if we can keep whittling it away, that'll be good. And I know there's some funds potentially that were left over. Freddie Gillespie was telling me about that from open space. There was CPC money. It was like $7,000.
Yeah, that we had talked about that.
We did
and
already.
That was going to be spent within a year. When we first brought it up, when I first brought it, I want to say it was July, maybe August.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we haven't gotten that. We have to have it allocated to us.
It's sitting in an account.
And I just have to ask for it because I could be wrong, but we have to prove that it's similar work to what it was supposed to be used for.
I can pull, I wish I had my folder. I
We can
will
talk
send
about
you,
it,
I have
yeah.
the warrant article and everything.
Okay.
I'll forward it to you tonight. or
And I
tomorrow.
probably have that, but it's been a lot of,
It's just
at the
sitting there,
bottom of the
Karina.
pile all of a
Just
sudden.
need, as long as it falls within the 4 corners of the warrant article, you just need to submit an invoice for it.
Okay, so if that's the case, maybe we can do that in the next couple of days, Lisa, if you and I
Yep.
can just figure that out.
You got
I
it.
wouldn't have to add that in for this year, and then we'll hold the line because we're in good shape
I may actually.
Because
have
they
it.
approved, we have the 2% step and a 3% cost of living. And then I'm not sure how it's handled, but at a previous meeting, planning board agreed that we could ask personnel board to increase my grade to the next level. So I'm a 7, go to an 8, and like move a couple steps forward. That matches like the business administrators just got moved forward. So they got a step increase, but they also increased, they got a grade increase, but they also increased like 3 steps to increase their salary to make everybody the same on that level. So I was going to try and do the same thing. So I don't know where that funding would come from unless I put that in now as an anticipated cost. So I'll have to figure that out, and maybe add that in.
Karina, while you keep going, I'm going to pull up. I just have to figure out which folder I put it in.
Okay. and
I
think-
have the warrant article.
I think. I have
Thank
it
you,
in my-
Marnie, for doing budget.
Can we be clear? I did very little. Karina is like eagle eye, detail oriented, the best, cleanest budget I've ever seen. And it's very clearly articulated what the rationale is. So I would say definitely put in for that step adjustment to that next grade and however we calculate that. But I think you made working with you like not even difficult. So you did all the work. Thank you for that. Thanks for
Thank you.
being so thorough and detail
Thank you for
oriented.
saying
And yeah, I fully support everything that's in that budget. Plus this added.
Okay, and then we'll determine
expense.
if the deed research database, we can use that funding, and then we won't. And I'm happy to say that the update for this year, that the ARPA has to be spent by Christmas. It's well underway, and I'll be invoiced for that work and receive the information. And then the goal is to transfer the Google Drive to the OneDrive, so it's all in our control. And the space and everything. So not only the server for planning will go there, but also the. Okay,
All right, if you want to give me 1 second, Karina, I'm just paging down to what the warrant article said specifically, or I can send it to you. It's totally up to you.
oh, send it to me, because I think I have it. It's up, if it's not long, you can, so the planning board knows where we're
I
at.
just got to get down to close to page 34. That's all.
Page 34,
On my file that I have it in. That's all.
okay.
24, 23, and you just need to hit 24. 21, 22, 23. It's got to be the next one. 24. Okay. So it was originally used, it was originally 62,000 to see if the town will vote to appropriate 62,000. I'll just read you the summary. Monies will be used to determine which open space parcels identified on approved subdivision plans are legally protected as open space through appropriate language in the conveying deed. And there's $7,800 left. So if that was the deed research. So if that qualifies, then that is indeed open at this point. We had talked about it prior that
You
we were
did.
going to try to get it spent within a year so we could close the project out. So
Okay,
there's
so-
7,800 approved and sitting in an account.
And when did that year start? In the summer, right?
Oh, we talked about it, I want to say August maybe,
Okay.
or September, so.
Good,
Yeah,
September,
yeah.
1 year.
So,
So I just need to draft a letter
yeah,
to Carla, copy planning board. Yeah, I know.
yeah, just, and I will let her know as
Requesting
well.
the
I'll
funds.
email her and let her know that, because I've been working with her trying to get some of these old things closed out. So I'll
Okay.
let her know that there will be invoices forthcoming for those, for that
Okay.
project. 7,800 is the number that's still open.
All right, so I'll have to I'll have to prepare a contract.
Yeah.
And it's underneath the threshold, so I just inquire with 3 companies, and then I can choose the one, and one is already working on it. So it'll be beneficial because we'll save money because there's no upstart again. Mobilization is done. Okay, thank you very much. All right. And Colleen, were there minutes? No minutes, okay. Okay, that's all I have for planners report. Oh, not to forget clean energy siting and permitting regulations. We talked about that already. But I keep that on there so we don't forget we have to eventually focus more. Read all the emails on it. Okay.
On that planner's report, you write about the 150 Corderville Road. Obviously, David Williams was on our call tonight. We talked about, I think the three things were making sure that they talk about a emergency response plan, the fire department training, and then the other thing that I put was a decommissioning plan. Granted, it's 30 years out, but those were the three things that they should make sure that they have as part of that.
Just say them one more time.
Emergency response plan, fire department training, and a decommissioning plan for disposal, et cetera, after the life of Matt said about a 30-year life. But they should have something, at least conceptually. 150 Corderville. Yes, they're Blue Sky Utility.
They don't need an official plan.
No, just what we discussed, I think.
Yeah, that should be fine.
And I'm happy to do it. If it takes something off your plate, I'm happy to send David and then just say, yeah, yep.
Karina, can I just ask you on the GIS, the CPA funds, do you need the account number? Okay. Do you want me to email it to you or do you want me to give it to you right now? Okay. Yep. Yeah, that's probably a good idea too. Yeah, okay. It doesn't do any good if there's not a sign off on that from, from CPC, but that's okay.
And that's all she wrote.
Our next meeting is January 12th, 2026, and I make a motion first the motion to say, happy holidays, everybody. This is our last meeting before we break for the holidays. Happy Merry Christmas, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, whatever people celebrate. Hopefully you find time to celebrate. And I make a motion to adjourn this meeting for 2025.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brashio, yes.
Elniak, yes.